This is Shu Hirata's Let's Talk Japanese Fight Sports with Charlie Jewett from sogokaku.com. Let's begin. Hey Charlie, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening there. I'm sorry.
Oh, same to you as well.
Yeah, and good evening to all the listeners in Japan, and good morning to all the listeners in the States. It's 9 a.m., so I think it's 6 a.m. on the West Coast, so
yeah,
kind of early. Yeah, so let's dive into the subject, which is, let's talk about this one first.
Yes.
Jessica Andrade sues her ex-coach for embezzling her money. Now, is this topic probably being ignored in Japan, right? Because of Ren's scandal and everything else.
Right. And I think that non-Japanese fighters that are fighting outside of Japan, only the hardcore MMA fans be paying attention to that. So
Okay.
I think it's mainly flown under the radar.
Right. Here's what it is, because Jessica, we used to manage Jessica, and right before this was revealed, she left us to the different management. But after this was revealed, she came back to Tiago, my partner, to consult about this. So I know a lot about it, which I will talk about something I can reveal. It's almost a similar case like Shohei Ohtani's interpreter.
Yeah,
like
very similar to that.
Right. I mean, Jessica went through a divorce, and she had a little bit of a financial issues. Every time anyone go through a divorce, of course, she probably had to give up a lot of money. And instead of going to the financial advisor to take care of her finances, she asked her ex-coach to take care of her money. Then gave, these passwords, secret questions, that pretty much anything you need to spend the money on credit card, to whatever that is, everything, bank account, to Amazon account, to everything else. So that's where everything started, and far as I know, the coach bought a couple of cars with her credit card. And not only that, what's very interesting thing is that it's not like he drove this car around. He did the business based on this car. He was renting this car to fellow Brazilian cornerman who comes to corner fighters, or Brazilian who came to train, that type of stuff. So he was making money off on things just he purchased using Jessica's money. So, and he also was doing the loan shark kind of thing. He was loaning some money, lending money and stuff like that. So I know the fact that he made money out of the money she allegedly stole from Jessica, and now I heard he's back in Brazil, and for some reason him and his wife has a new farm, I'm hearing. So I don't know how he purchased that, but again, Jessica was making good money. She won't allow fight of the night performances, so he was taking percentage on that. So, but still,
it reminds me of it reminds me of the Ham Sohee situation, where I was reading the interviews.
Right.
Jessica was, he told me, don't worry, I'll take care of everything, and gave her like a monthly salary. And as long as her monthly salary was coming, she was like, didn't ask any questions, trusted her completely. And then once she started to realize all of her money was gone, he just ran away to Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, in her case, it shouldn't be considered as a monthly salary. It's almost like allowance, right? Right.
He had some crazy excuse, right? He said that she spent all of her money on Amazon.
Yeah, something like that. And he said he spent, and I think she replied she only spent 100K on Amazon, whatever that is. But it's just way more than Amazon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think my issue with the case, though, is she's suing him in the United States, and he's in Brazil. So, I mean, that's probably going to go nowhere unless he comes, because he has no assets in the United States, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think she would have to win the case here first, and then she can take it to Brazil. That's the scenario.
Right. It
But
just
again, I don't know how it works in Brazil, so it could take a long time.
because was it? I imagine it was an American bank account.
Yeah, it's American bank account. Yeah, because she has she was living in Vegas for quite a while now, and like the coach has a wife too, and if you want to pretend like a Jessica underage on the phone, if you're a Brazilian female, it's not that hard, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if you know all the secret answers to all the secret questions and everything else, you know.
Well, what was interesting to me was that there was a lot of like he wired money to all sorts of people.
Mm-hmm.
So like the little buzzer from the Otani case is going off of like this sounds like wire fraud, but the issue is he's in Brazil, so like it just makes it incredibly more complicated for every money back.
Yeah, very, very complicated because I guess crime as was allegedly took place in U.S. and happened in all the
Right.
U.S. dollars, right? So case is only here, and the guy is
Yeah,
gone.
I don't know how the Brazil legal system works, but those courts might say that this happened in America. You have to sue them in America. So, I mean, yeah, it could be difficult.
I don't know if this is the issue about the legal system in Brazil, but I'll tell you this interesting story about. I would say about almost 10 years ago, I was happened to be in a cafe when this famous coach attacked famous manager. And I videotaped everything because I was just happened to be there. And I'm still a good friend of his famous manager. So I helped him and I gave him the CD for, the videos of everything was captured on tape. And he turned it into the court. I mean, the legal system where court, whatever that is, they lost it. So I had to FedEx that again, and I lost it again. And I FedExed that again, so I had to FedEx twice. So I had to give him three times. So that tells something about the Brazil's legal system, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, it's just very confusing because it's estimated around 2 million, right?
yeah, estimated, yeah.
I don't know how far that goes in Brazil. Like, but just doesn't he also own and operate the gym that she was from?
Well, here's what
Doesn't
it is. I'm
doesn't this
not
just
going to.
destroy the entire? Like, no one will want to work with this guy ever again.
Yeah, I mean, but he still has the gym, right? I mean, the team, and his team is pretty known. He built it
Right.
from the training fighters in I think his mother's living room. So successful, but obviously, I'm hearing that he has the farm. He's doing something else besides fighting. So he's maybe has given up on coaching. Moving on to the different
Mhm.
business.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. And
I mean,
yeah, I think you're getting cut off. So is
I
is
am.
that my
Is my
internet?
internet bad?
Yeah, or my internet or your internet? But anyway, yeah. So I think you're correct in a sense that yes, she will have to win the case here first, then go to Brazil and try to chase this case and chase
Sorry,
this.
is this better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. So basically, she would have to win this case and try to get this case in Brazil. So we'll see what it is, but it's going to be hard to get the money back. You know
Well, I mean, I imagine it'd be very easy to win the case in America because he's just not going to show up. So she get a default judgment against
exactly
him,
right. So it's
and
only
then
the
just take
process
that
you
out
would
of
have to
Brazil.
go through. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would be stupid for him to show up. And this means even though he has a fighter in the UFC, he probably won't be able to corner any of them in the states, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, so that's not going to work. So I mean, I think she could forget about the money because usually when you get conned or you became a victim of this kind of a case, you're not going to get money back most of the time. And
Oh, because I mean, it sounds like a tale as old as time, like what Mike Tyson, Don King, just like throughout all sports, this seems to go on for a very long time.
yeah, and it's too bad that now it's happening to the coach and the interpreter and stuff like that. But I guess the bottom line here is that the fighter should not give away his or her password and answers to secret questions, and that person should be the primary a person who registered his or her telephone number. I think that's it. I think they can prevent all of these crimes just for that
Well,
from
also,
this.
well, if you're handling that kind of money, why wouldn't you just hire like a financial advisor to handle your money in the
You know,
US?
yeah,
Someone
we
who has
said
like,
yeah. We said the same thing to Jessica, and of course, I mean the right things to do is to hire a financial advisor, and she thought the coach was the one, you know.
because I mean, you can go to some of those big firms and find someone where it's not worth it for them to steal your money because they make so much money handling a bunch of accounts. They want to keep
Right.
it going. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I think I just wanted to say that we can talk so much about her, but it's like almost same case as Shohei Otani. It's just that
It
the
did.
Otani case, the guy gambled away the money, but this coach maybe apparently made a profit out of the properties he purchased using Jessica's money. So
Well, he didn't gamble it. Sounds like he just actually stole it.
yeah, exactly. So it's not like he was forced to commit such a that's what the Otani's interpreter's excuse, right? I mean,
Did I see her make a comment that she was actually thinking of retiring sometime soon? And now, because of this, she's no longer able to retire when she wants to.
I don't know if that's accurate because
Okay.
yeah, like I said, she went through divorce,
Yeah.
and yeah, and in her pay rate, if she wins couple, is a goodbye to apartment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, or a house depends on where you live. So and she's been winning, so I think
Yeah.
she's okay financially now. I think she's earning back this $2 million that she lost rather quickly.
Yeah.
So I guess I think like same as Otani's case, maybe let legal pro handle what
Wait,
she needs to do, but just concentrate on her career. Do whatever she got to
didn't
do.
didn't a very similar thing happen to Joanna Jędrzejczyk?
I don't think so. Is it
I thought
something
she had.
about you?
I may be wrong. I thought she somehow got a bunch of money like fandangled away from her too.
No, I don't know. Well, I don't communicate with her right now. I mean, but
Right.
I'm good with her. Every time I bump into her, we're okay, but we don't really talk, so much in detail. So I don't know. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate how common this is in the sport.
Yeah. So exactly. So then let's talk about the next topic. I think everyone here is the Ren Hiramoto scandal in Japan. I think it's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
I just looked it up. Joanna Jędrzejczyk's former Polish manager, she made comments about how he messed up all of her finances, did a bunch of
What
stuff.
he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was supposedly some kind of a advertising expert, agency expert, whatever related, heavily tied or whatever. Yeah, that's too bad. I mean,
Use a
and it's
pro. And isn't that what Shaq? One of the first things Shaq did when he went pro was meet with a financial advisor on how to
right.
save his money. So I mean, that's what you
Exactly.
got to do.
And not only that, though, this is what I see. I always tell my clients that it's almost like you're your own company, right? You're running your own company. So it's like a Ren Hiramoto Incorporated, or you're on the agency Incorporated, whatever that
Well, I mean,
is.
the
You know?
UFC treats you that way. You're an independent contractor. They don't treat you like an
Right.
employee. You're your own
Exactly.
thing.
That's the point. Right. And the point is, so you're running a small business. And let's say you have like 10 people working for you or 20 people working for whatever that is. Most of the small, medium-sized business owners I know, they are very aware of their own books. Most of them tells me in back of their head, they calculate their money all the time. You know what I mean? So if there's some money is missing or something is totally mishandled, they will know. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Like, because at some point in time, the burden, you can't blame ignorance. It's like you need to be checking your finances. And if there's a bunch of money missing, you need to speak to the person managing it and find out why.
Right.
Mhm. especially when it's these large. And that was the most befuddling thing about the Otani situation was just the massive amount of money that had gone missing. Like, wasn't $100,000. It was like millions of dollars.
Yeah, and surprising about Otani's case was supposedly I read it somewhere that the actual account that Mizuhara took the money from, he didn't even log into that account for a couple of years. So so he didn't know what was going on. Period. He didn't even check.
Right.
That's the point.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. So, but now let's get to this Ren Hiramoto scandal. And
okay, so for those that aren't familiar with this situation, or those who are just
go ahead. Yeah, please
explain. Familiar with it,
listener. Yeah,
I wanted to kind of give a timeline.
Okay.
Of what happened with this situation, and then we can go into more details about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So obviously, Ren knocks out Mikuru Asakura in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Then in mid-August, Mikuru's financier, let's call him that, / manager Horie, makes some comment how he's heard some rumors about things happening. And it's revealed the guy telling him this is Breaking Down's CEO, this guy named Mizuguchi.
Mizuguchi, yes.
So it's important to realize that at the beginning, these are all Asakura people that are starting to spread the rumors of open.
Before it was
Breaking Down.
Yeah.
It's Breaking Down, which Asakura is a very big part of. I mean, it's his show, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
It's Horie, who is his longtime manager and financier kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, this Twitter account, it's just kind of like a random account, released an audio call of Hiramoto. And at the time, some anonymous guy was talking about how to take injections. And there was some talk about steroids or stuff. And then after that, the day after that, Rising announces that they're going to they're working on drug test results. Urine samples got sent to the US, and they're not going to make any announcements until they get the results.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, it's kind of like a known bad boy in Rising, Shibatar, goes on his YouTube channel, and he's quite a popular YouTuber. And he tells everyone that the anonymous guy on the phone with Ren was Akazawa, who's a fighter in Deep that used to train in Canada at Triforce. And then because of that, Akazawa then goes on Twitter, this crazy Twitter tirade with massive tweets where he admits to using steroids in the past, talks about how Ren asked him how to do steroids, and then I thought the weirdest thing he said was, when I trained abroad, everyone at the gym was doing steroids. So
yeah,
it's just
this, so that he trained at TriStar in Canada. So he's basically
everybody knows that. Everybody knows he trained it because
right there. Yeah,
he's in charge of the gym he runs in Tokyo. It's called TriStar. So are you saying that everyone at TriStar is doing steroids? Because it's a pretty big allegation you're throwing just casually out there.
The big one, because he was there around 2004, 2005. So
yes, GSP, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It was the prime of TriStar.
And then he posts some weird in Japan, your bank card comes with a little book, and it has the history of all of your transactions. Mm-hmm. He posts something where he received money from Ren Hiramoto. Mm-hmm. And then after that, Ren holds a press conference with his own attorneys, denies ever doing steroids. I believe the only thing he says is that he took some, a physical trainer recommended he get an injection for his knee. Mm-hmm. And that was the only thing that happened. I think 2 days later, Rising then had a press conference and announced that both Miku and him were negative, and that they were then going to kind of revamp their drug testing procedures, and also that they wanted Ren to pass another drug test if he wanted to fight on New Year's Eve. So I just wanted to give that timeline, kind of how this happened, and now we can kind of discuss it more for those that weren't familiar with the.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I see almost zero North American media reporting about this, maybe except Fight Opinion, on the X.
Yeah.
So
I think I see little people are like, oh, Ren tested positive, tested negative, Ren was negative, like, but they don't know the exact details.
Mm-hmm.
That the weird thing about this is almost all of the allegations were on social media.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all very like direct news sources. So
yeah, that's the point too. I mean, the actual tape was revealed from this unanimous X account, you know, Japan's comeback or something like that. That's what's name, and it's obviously it's little maybe right wing, you know. But I know exactly who's running it, but we can't talk about that. But it's not a legit media that reporting anything about this. And
Ren also did say that the audio was heavily edited.
Yes,
to make it sound way worse than it was.
Right.
And I will add one thing I do think is interesting, a little piece of background information, is that Ren and Akazawa formerly trained together, and I think they were kind of friends. And so even after this, Ren kind of said in an interview, I believe, with Friday, which is kind of a popular publication, he thinks that something like maybe someone is kind of like pressuring Akazawa to do this. And I believe Big Shig from Deep also said the same thing when he was interviewed. Like, he has no idea why Akazawa would say this, that maybe there's like some problem or someone exerting pressure on him. So there's all these kind of hints that maybe he's being pressured. And then didn't Ren say in that interview that these third-party people kind of offered to make the problem go away for 30 million yen?
I don't think so. Did he mention 30 million yen somewhere?
Yeah, the interview, he said 30 million yen in the Friday interview, that this like third party essentially offered to shut up. I think they was to make Akazawa shut up. And Ren kind of hinted that he thought that these people offering to make Akazawa be quiet are probably the same people that got him to talk in the first place. So it sounds like a classic blackmail kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I can talk so much because I know, I'm involved in this, but I think we should really look at this from the point of view of a motive of Akazawa. And I wanted to talk about this because it's almost same as Jessica underage case in a sense that you gotta start surrounding yourself with professionals. You know what I mean? So like let's talk about this surrounding yourself with professionals, because Japanese MMA has been so poor so long that there's no really a custom for fighters to pay to the coaches or even pay to the cornerman, that type of stuff. Of course, they pay, some of the coaches, of course. So when you surround yourself with friends or the trusted friends who helps you train, set up all kinds of stuff, and you start making all kinds of money, if those other guys are not making any money, and people start not really following you, not really loyal to you. So, if you don't structure a professional relationship, the chances are, people start making wrong decisions, So, and let's talk about the motive of Akazawa now.
Because I will say, his stated motive to me sounds like complete bullshit. This whole thing of like, oh, I saw Mikuru lose, and I couldn't let this dishonorable act like lead to his retirement. I had to step forward. He tries to make it like sound like he's something incredibly noble by coming forward.
Right, not only noble,
no way that's true.
Right, he's like all of a sudden he's like feeling the guilt trip. I mean, in this statement, remember, he has admitted that he's basically putting all the guys on TriStar under the bus, by saying
all you have to do is look at his topology picture when he was a welterweight, and now he fights at heavyweight. The guy is unrecognizable. He's like a walking steroid.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So anyway, so, and two, he's pretty much blacklisted in MMA in Japan, not that many promoters would want to use him, Well, three,
especially after this,
not after this, right? And three, was he like Asakura's big fan that he feels that kind of guilt trip? No, because he's been with Ren. He wanted to even corner Ren on that fight. So what's the motive there, right? I mean, because he's taking a huge chance, because if the test came out negative, then what does he achieve, right? I mean, right now, what did he achieve from this? He got himself a blacklisted, and he's married to Canadian women, so he had the choice to go back to Canada, perhaps maybe working for a Japanese restaurant, kind of stuff. But really, he's not gonna have much choice, right? So you really should look at the point of view of motive.
I think the clearest motive is money somehow.
Yeah, either money or being pressured or something like that, right? I mean,
Right.
what else? Why
The
we?
Miku Ren fight was huge, and if somebody could make money off of it by either blackmailing or selling a story to a news outlet,
Mm-hmm. It's funny, on Akazawa's statement, he mentioned that first, those articles supposed to run by Shukan Bunshin, which is like the biggest weekly magazine in Japan, and it didn't happen. So what happened? It came out of like this anonymous X account. It's not even legit media. So it's obvious that that was not the intention, right? I mean,
right.
and also remember, he admitted that he's been taking steroids, so there's a big possibility that he was the quote unquote pusher for steroid within the Japanese fight sports. So
That's
you know,
literally what he paints himself as. He's like, a guy was calling me for advice on how to use steroids, and then he like claimed he sold him drugs. Like,
exactly. So he's basically saying that. Yeah.
Is he setting himself up to get arrested? I mean, he's openly admitting to essentially selling illegal drugs to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's a big downside to this. Even though the Ren's test came out positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It's a huge downside on Mr. Akazawa's part. So we all have to wonder, why did he do this?
Mhm.
Yeah. And in terms of going back to this, surrounding yourself as a professionals, your relationship with people around you, that needs to be reorganized. That's what we talked about I sat down with Ren in 101, and if someone is trying to frame him, that means from now on forward, if as long as he lives in Japan, it's going to be traps everywhere around him.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think we should also say that blackmail is a very common thing in Japan, much so more so than in the US. I believe back in the 80s and like 90s, wouldn't gangsters essentially buy enough stock to go to a corporate meeting and then threaten to reveal blackmail board members
right
unless they got
the,
paid money?
stock
so
meeting. Yeah, that's why most of the corporations back then had a specialized person who was getting paid very well to take care of business with Yakuza. Basically, talk to them, negotiate with them to make sure they don't show up at the shareholders meeting. So the meeting was smooth, publicly. Yeah, and it still happens, sometimes.
I just bring that up to say that there's a
Yeah.
organized crime and that kind of stuff. Japan has a very long history of extortion and blackmail going into this situation. So.
Right. So, I mean, I really think I would like to provide some hint to the listeners here that motive, and I think they should look at it. And who is who gets the most profit out of doing this whole scandal, really? I mean, again, the test came out negative, so I guess the accusers group, that's just a losing battle now, right? So, but let's say, for the sake of argument, what if the test came out positive? You know what I mean? And who gets the most benefit, really? It's
theoretically,
it's just crime,
Like theoretically, you almost have to look at where the allegations initiated on Twitter and things, with like the Breaking Down community and fighters from Breaking Down and people like associated with Mikuru Asakura.
Yeah.
It seems like they don't want their boy to retire, and if this gets reversed for a test, they're hoping he unretires and some type of second fight happens or something.
Well, here's what it is. In terms of retirement, I mean, as we all know, almost all fighter comes back. So being
Absolutely.
retired doesn't
Absolutely.
mean much, right? So even though tested positive or negative, the Mikuru could still try to ask for a rematch, right? And
Right.
right
Absolutely.
now, he lost and the test is negative. So theoretically, then he really don't have a reason to ask for a rematch. But because of this scandal, he has a reason to ask for a rematch. And then Ryzen is thinking about doing what, like besides the blood test, you're talking about, I mean, the urine test, blood test, to even the hair test and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, I actually suggested to Ryzen that they should do a random test. And when you talk about random test, most of the people think about sending actual guys to your home, and like monitor 24/7. No, I suggested to do what like a commission, some of the commissions in states do, which is to call the fighter and notify them to come to this lab within 4 hours and pee on a cup.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. So that's much cheaper than
Way more
sending.
cost effective.
Yeah. But in Japan, still theoretically, then you would have to find the lab or hospital in the area where all the fighters are living to be able to do that. And the same thing applies to non-Japanese fighter who lives outside Japan. So it's still going to cost them a lot of money, you know.
Why couldn't you just randomly have the fighter set up a meeting at the Rising office, have them come to the Rising office, have a nurse there that collects the piss, and just do it that way or something?
Yeah, they could do that, right? But again, what if a fighter lives in Okinawa? They will probably
I mean,
won't come.
clearly there's going to be outliers. I mean, you have
Yeah,
people that live in Azerbaijan, so I mean, there's going to be outliers. But
right.
for big fights, at least the Japanese fighters, you could do it that way.
Right, exactly. And also the point is the urine test, any lab you sent, it will take about 30 days, you know?
Yeah.
So even though you do it a month before the fight, it doesn't mean you will definitely get the results before the fight. You know what I mean? So
Have you noticed that with this, there's kind of been a general reaction that I don't know if it's like a propaganda, like pro Asakura fans are kind of making it sound like the urine test wasn't enough, and now there's kind of pressure on Rising to like revamp their drug testing system.
well, there's two issues about that. I mean, they want the blood test and the hair test, right? The blood test is done by the Olympics as well, so that's what they're demanding it. But
Yeah.
UFC is not doing that. PFL is not doing that. So what? I mean, sure. And then, but most of the athletes they don't provide. They don't take the blood out on the day of the competition. So it has to be
Yeah.
done, randomly beforehand. But more than anything, I think when you do a real research about potential PEDs that athletes has used, or the bodybuilders uses, and there are many steroids that is really not detectable on blood tests actually, or it
Yeah.
doesn't stay that long. Yeah, and urine test actually detects more. And
Right.
when you look at the Olympics, statistics and stuff like that, they detect more, a violator from the urine test than the blood test. It's not even comparison. Yeah. Now here,
Don't they store the urine now so they can test it with advanced testing techniques later?
yeah, I think so. And
Stuff like
also,
that.
but
Yeah.
most of the cases, the urine sample it's divided to A sample, B samples, and after everything is done, if athletes agree, it will be provided to different lab for the study purposes. So I don't know how long they're going to keep it. You know. Yeah.
No.
So the point is that and in terms of hair test, that's only conducted like in a murder case, or like some like it's a police involved cases. And yeah, and lots of drugs, or lots of PEDs, or prohibited substances, it does stay in hair, could stay up to like 2 months. You know what I mean? So
I think asking for a hair sample is kind of insane. I think a blood test is kind of insane. I would just, if I was Rising, I would just, before the December thing, randomly
mhm.
drug test Ren a couple times. If you pass those drug tests, and that's what they did with Kimura. They just said you have to pass. We'll randomly test you until you pass.
See, there's one issue about like the fans here too. Like these huge voices of like, oh, let's vamp up, drug test procedures, or all these criticism towards Ryzen. This never took place when Kimura tested a positive.
I want to bring that up. So this is just, it's clearly just people that like Mikuru and wanted Mikuru to win, kind of like pushing this narrative.
Yes.
The Japanese public, in my opinion, has never cared about steroids in the past before. I mean, Kimura failed his test, and he's fought 5 times since then. He failed it last year, and he's fought 5 times since. Like that, they don't care. I mean, they were making jokes about it when he was trying to jump into the ring at the last Rising show.
Exactly. So nobody cared about it, and nobody really asked for like a changing of a drug test. But now all of a sudden they're trying to blame on Rising for ruining Mikuru's retirement fight, whatever that is. But it's all Mikuru fans who is really saying that. And the good point here, you just pointed out that Kimura has fought many times since then, right?
Oh, yeah. And wasn't his whole manager saying that he's being punished by being forced to fight, essentially?
But remember, he was supposed to be tested every time after that. And how many announcements were made so far, really?
I think they only tested him the one time. They've tested him twice. They tested him once and he failed, so they canceled the fight with Ampo.
Right.
And then they tested him again, and he passed for Buakaw.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've been testing him since then.
Exactly, but he should be tested all the time, right? All the time.
No, it's important to note also that Mikuru's fan base, like those guys aren't normal MMA fans. They're Mikuru fans. And they're upset that Mikuru lost. And if Mikuru's, not Mikuru himself, but, well, I guess Mikuru did have some weird YouTube video with Kai where they're kind of talking about, oh, Japanese martial arts is falling apart. Anything, like without us, we've worked so hard to build it up, but it could just go crumbling down. Anything, like real doom and gloom style video. So I think they're working his fans up to get them to buy into this narrative that Ren was doping.
Mikuru played a big part of reviving a popularity of MMA in Japan. There's no doubt about that. But that's only happened based on everything was built from 20, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? So if he wasn't for him, it would have been somebody else who's done it. So even though he's gone, I think show will go on. You know what I mean? That's how it is.
I also don't think he'll be gone that long, to be honest. He'll be back in some capacity.
Oh, yeah, probably New Year's Eve even, because Sakakibara was already mentioning about that, right? I mean, I think it only makes sense to do the rematch on New Year's Eve and make Ren and Mikuru goes through, I guess, Yori and the blood test month before the fight or 2 weeks before the fight, whatever that is, right? I mean,
not to name names, just the whole obsession, the recent obsession is so funny to me because I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of Japanese fighters that were like fighting well into their 40s that looked like professional bodybuilders. Like they just had completely ridiculous physiques. Like, I don't think anyone's really cared about it before. I don't think they're going to care about it afterwards. I think this is kind of a fluke.
Right. Oh, and also I got to mention this. One of the accusations or like a controversy that the fans in Japan is also pointing out is the fact that the Ren admitted to inject medicine for his knee injuries, which was received or recommended from his, strength and conditioning coach. And
I saw that the doctor at the press conference from Rising was kind of saying only a doctor can do that. So there was kind of some confusion and criticism about that.
Here's what it is, though, Charlie. I know the law very well about this because we are the Japanese people who moved to the States. And I know a lot of guys, people, family, lived in the States and went back to Japan, obviously. And there are a lot of cases when your kids get sick or when you get sick and they went through some surgeries or any kind of injuries, some of the medicines, prescriptions that you're taking is not available in Japan. So it's not illegal to individually import the medicine from states and takes that. And I don't care if it's injections or tablets or powder, whatever that is. It's not illegal. And I've seen some.
So to
Yeah,
summarize, just to clarify, what you're saying is the drug itself is not illegal in Japan, but you're not able to get it, so they import it themselves, then do it.
yeah, exactly right. It's not
Yeah.
completely illegal. You can be illegal drug, and I mean you can't,
Yeah, you can't like import like heroin, but you can
exactly. You
import a
can't do
legal
that.
drug.
Right. Legal drug that it's not classified as illegal. Yes, you can.
Right.
But one problem is this: you can individually import it, but if you give this to somebody else to take it, and that's actually a big gray area. You know what I mean?
So
Because
you have to
you're
kind
not
of import it
doctor.
yourself, just personal
Yeah,
use only kind of thing.
right. Because you're not a doctor, so you don't have any rights to prescribe any medicine to anybody. So even though you
That makes sense.
individually imported it and you gave it to somebody, even though you don't charge any money, that could be a legal problem. You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And in the world of sports, like especially if you're, I always tell my guys, my girls that if you are in this sports, you have to think this as a world market, because eventually you want to go to the UFC or you want to go to some other promotion, whatever that is. It's probably maybe not in Japan, sometime maybe in Japan, who knows, right? So, and that's why they go training a lot in abroad. And if you do, of course, you will, get to meet fighters and they'll discuss what they're taking in terms of supplements to what they do when they get injuries and stuff like that. So the sense of guilt is not there because you see fellow fighters doing the same thing. But for example, right, if somebody recommends your hormone shots, whatever that is, you have to have this habit of doing the research and check to make sure if it's okay or not. So if it's not okay, then maybe switch it to PRP or whatever that is. So in general, you have to be conscious about, even down to the eye drops to lotions, anything you apply to your body, you have to have a habit of checking on your own. You can't say, "Oh, I no." you know.
Isn't that kind of what Ren said? Didn't Ren say that? Correct me if I'm wrong. He thought he was getting some type of supplements, and then he spoke to somebody that don't do that. If you take cough syrup, you can fail a drug test. Like you shouldn't take anything. So that's why he decided not to take what he received from Akazawa.
Yeah. He said that on the press conference that he did receive that from Makazawa. He left it on his living room, and one of his office staff came and suggested that if you don't know what it is, you shouldn't take it. So he did it.
Yeah.
No.
Which also just makes Akazawa look even worse because now it makes it sound like he's selling people drugs and not telling them what it is.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, what is Akazawa gaining from this, right?
No,
And
really bad.
I'll give you one more big hint. It's very interesting. I wouldn't say interesting, but what a story. But most of the Japanese heavyweight guys or middleweight up, whatever that is, they don't have too many training partners. So they tend to all train together. So, Akazawa with Mr. Okami, Mr. Hasegawa, Mr. Anzai, they train together once, twice a week at this place called Game Sports. Okay? So, day after Akazawa posted that big statement on X, he showed up at the training and like nothing happened. So you could guess what happened there, right?
Man, even if Ren did do the steroids, I would not want to be training with a snitch. Like, don't do you can't trust that guy. He's ruined his reputation completely.
Oh, I know, and you gotta understand the guys like Yushin, who is pretty close with Abema TV, done many shows. He's letting his fighters fight in their shows. Ken Hasegawa, who has been training, like supporting Ren, obviously, and he's the one who introduced Akazawa to Ren. Still, this Akazawa shows up at training like nothing happened. You can pretty much guess, right? So that's when actually we all pretty much found out the truth, and the motive behind it, and I think if Akazawa confesses everything, all truth, somebody will get, you know, get into real trouble, because it has to be a force behind it. Somebody has to, right, do something
Right.
to make Akazawa do such a thing. I mean, because he's not really gaining anything,
No, he's destroying his career
right? And on that
as a fighter.
statement, right? And on that statement, he has said that he hasn't received any money, no monetary compensation here. But then, what's his motives, really, right? I mean, why all of a sudden all this guilt trip just because of Mikuru lost? When this is a
There's so many
guy.
possibilities. Like, even if he's saying I didn't receive money, it's like, okay, so what if you owed somebody money? Like, there's so many possibilities for stuff that he's not saying.
Right. Or, I don't know, maybe his family got pressured or whatever it is. I don't know, So,
I feel like Akiyama always goes to his fights to watch him. Is he close with Akiyama as well?
mm-hmm.
Like, that's possible, yeah. Okay.
Well, here's what it is. In the Japanese world of MMA, there's not many, like, again, the training partner for big guys. So Aizawa is a very good training partner for everybody. And what's so funny is this. And this happens in every sports, but there are type of athletes who's really good in training, who beats up everybody, who's very strong in training, but when it comes to actual competition, they just can't come up with good results. There's always a guy like, yeah, and Akazawa is that guy that he trains well. He's a good training partner for a lot of fighters because he's good in training. But when it comes to actual fight,
It's interesting. He's kind of lucked out because there's so few heavyweights in Japan. Despite having a somewhat mediocre record, he's been able to kind of keep his career going.
I mean, less than
they need.
Yeah. I mean, his record is terrible at this point, And
he can't even make the top 10 ranking of Japan. There's not even 10 heavyweights. So.
Right. And here's what it is. Also, I'll tell you a very interesting story. Like we talk about Tanimachi, certain small business or medium business owners with extra money who like to support the athletes, artists, whatever that is. Akazawa has Tanimachi as well. So, from the fight person, he's not going to make a living, but he has this choice to Japan. He's training. So they're a person who's been paying his salary and all the expenses for almost 10 years kind of stuff. So when you get in that,
hopefully they weren't a Ren fan.
yeah, I mean, and when you're fighters in that situations, unless if you're really, really strongly motivated and if you're really good at keeping your motivation high, most of the time you get comfortable with your lifestyle because you're not a survivor anymore because you're getting the constant pay, you don't have to worry about your life, that type of stuff. So Mr. Akazawa was known for a sort of like a overspending things and party kind of lot. And so even though like a day before the fight, when he's in Korea, he was out, partying out and stuff like that. And he loses
that black combat fight where he got knocked out.
Right. And even before that, remember he got knocked out in Deep?
Yeah.
And I remember
knocked out by like an old man.
Yeah. and many of the people in the business, send me a message, say something like, "Oh, no matter what steroid you take, PED you take, your chin is always weak." So like he was kind of known, He
was also a blown up welterweight. Like the guy he's not a natural heavyweight, so
very unnatural,
Do you think Deep would be pissed because those documents he released also showed like Deep in his bank records, like receiving money from Deep Impact?
I saw that, right? I mean, he's so stupid he didn't black out the other part, right? So he's not really bright.
I think that pissed off Deep Impact to see if they don't want people knowing how much they pay people.
Right. Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, I mean, he's actually putting a lot of people into hot water, because of this, and it's just because he's training partners to all these people he supposedly coached and everything else. He's putting everybody under the microscope now, under the suspicion. So, but again,
he's not drug tested for the remainder of his career. I mean,
right.
He openly admitted that he's using steroids.
Yeah, but again, who will use him, right? I mean, maybe Ganryujima kind of stuff. Who cares?
Well, the Ganryujima does like Kimura. Maybe they can fight each other.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the point is right now, and also it's very funny that after I got to mention this, that he's not exactly. I'm hearing that I don't know him personally because I never met him in person, but I'm hearing that he's not exactly a very good at writing statement. So that long statement he wrote, posted on the X, which is like a 4 pages long twice, it has to be written by somebody else. So who wrote it is like, and that person, whoever the person who wrote that, had to have some special feeling toward Mikuru, because it was just so into detailed of how, like he ruined everything because of Mikuru, and even the one low kick, every little details on that. Yeah,
very apologetic to Mikuru.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I don't know if you're ever going to find out who is behind this, but the point is that the only way for Ren to prove his innocence is, I guess, he's got to take another test before the next fight. On
another piss test, or
well, I mean, here's what it is. I told Ryzen that if you do a blood test and if you make the precedent, they're gonna have to do it on every show. You can't just handpick this, that, especially.
Make me do it too.
Yeah, and of course, and also, and especially Ren is not a Kimura case here. He did not test positive. If he tested positive, and I totally understand that, you got to do this, test that, I get it. But he didn't. So if you're going to force, just because there's one trainer's accusations and one accusation from edited audio from some anonymous X account, then in the future, if this happens, then you're going to have to test everybody, right? So So I think they should do a random urine test. They should randomly call fighters to the office or to the lab nearby, whatever that is, and they would have to piss on the cup right there, and you can't force or expect Rising to do the same type of a drug test like UFC does. It costs a lot of money. So it's a business. So you can't force them to do that, right? I mean, yeah, and in a way, they're not on the Fuji television anymore. They're not on the so-called regular television in Japan. So they're only on the streaming companies. It's their level of constant and sense of compliance is much lower, right? So I mean, yeah. So I really don't think they should do a blood test. If they want to do it, go ahead. But I think it'd be a waste of money because the blood test won't detect so much. Like everybody thinks they do, yeah.
Do you think? I mean, I'm thinking of fighters like Amir Ali Akbali.
I mean, that's another point too. That they're gonna have to still test all these non-Japanese fighters. So when and how are they going to test that? Even though they test on the first day of the fight week, by the time the results come in, they are gone. Money's already paid. So what are you going to do? What's the penalty, right? I mean,
So Ren is going to do some sort of random test. Then it sounds like Rising wants him to fight on New Year's Eve.
I think so, and as far as I know, but who knows what the
they're kind of out of stars. If Mikuru is retired, Kai has gone to the UFC, Horiguchi is probably going to be fighting in some PFL tournament or something. So I mean, they're kind of out of people. It's got to be Ren. Who else could carry that card? Henshin's gone.
I mean, here's the bottom line, though. Right now, I gotta say this officially that obviously Bellator slowed down, right? And after PFL purchases Bellator, and there's not much big movement going on from PF either, not yet, right? So right now, I know the process fighters are making and stuff like that, and consistency and how often do you get fight per year kind of concept. I think you could argue the Rising is almost number two next in the same as PFL.
Oh yeah.
So
Mhm.
so I
I mean,
could
if the
see.
yen was stronger, I would say absolutely.
So I could see some fighters prefer fighting for Rising. You know what I mean? So even that's being said, and not only the Japanese fight, I'm talking about outside Japan as well. So I think this drug testing is going to be a big issue because then now they're going to have to start announcing what kind of penalty they're going to pose on the fighters who tested positive. Which Rising has never announced about that, right? So how are you going to
I think
make
a lot
that?
of it was kind of dealt backstage. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of them back. They never even announced except Kimura. You know, So when somebody tests that positive, everything is backstage. You contact the fighters, you discuss what they're gonna do. Like some cases, I heard that they have confiscated 100% of his or her purse. But that's not going to be possible with non-Japanese fighters who gets paid and gone, right? I mean, you're not gonna go over there for money.
Weren't there rumors? Never mind. I don't want to go. There's rumors about that with some foreign fighter in the past, but it's all backstage, so nothing concrete.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this: the test takes at least about 30 days to come to get results anyway. So day of the fight urine test, we won't find out for another 30 days. And most of the cases, the fighters will get paid before 30 days, right? So
Okay. So I have a question to you. So Ren had that press conference 2 days before Rising had theirs.
mhm.
Did he do his own urine test, learn the results, and then announce it, or was he just that confident that he was going to pass the test?
I talked to Ren, and we have discussed with Mr. Sakibara and everybody else at the office too, and that we have decided to not do anything before the test results came in. But all of a sudden, he decided to this press conference. So I actually questioned, like, why are you doing this? And I got the scenario and everything else before the press conference. I looked at it and I pointed out a few things. But my gut feeling was, why are you doing this? And because he's taking a risk, because what if test came out positive, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but he said it's fine. He feels very comfortable, and
That
I
suit,
can't
that
review
suit looked
everything
pretty
else.
awesome. He was
Yeah, it
dressed very
came out
nicely. I will say that.
right. So it came out actually good because it came out negative. So it kind of tells the scenario that he was confident and comfortable about the drug test. So you know, the only thing is that
Well,
you bought it, but you didn't take it or use it, and that's always been a suspicion, right? I mean,
well, I think it was, in hindsight, it seems like it was a good move because kind of, he was able to take control of the narrative and kind of
mhm.
announce things on his terms. But it was weird. Did you see that Sakakibara made some weird comment about like not not even doing steroids, but like buying steroids with the intent of doing them might be enough to be punished or something?
Yeah, actually, under the WADA rules, like if you're Olympic athletes, if they found out you bought it, yes, you could get penalized for that, even though you didn't take it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and when you any even current drug testing, when anybody comes to the house and collect urine sample, they will ask you a bunch of questions. What kind of supplements you're taking, what do you have, and everything down to the point. So but they don't ask you a question that, oh, did you buy something but you end up not taking it, because there's no questions like that. You know what I mean? So unless if you get caught right-handed or told them, it's going to be very difficult to catch, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like if you buy drugs out of the street and if your police come and ask, you would be stupid to admit that, right? I mean, it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
makes sense.
Yeah, but it's ethically wrong too. So I mean, it makes sense to what the Sakakibara said. So that has actually been explained to Ren as well, and he understands. So I mean, he's ready to take another test. Once the fights are confirmed. So we'll see. But I don't know what test the Rising is thinking, because once they do it, they're gonna have to continue doing that, right? I mean, you can't just handpick one person. So we'll see.
Oh,
Yeah,
look at some
that's
of the
right.
questions we have in the chat.
Yeah,
Um,
I mentioned this, but we still haven't got Kimura Buakau test results. I agree. Yeah. So I mean, that's
so we have
been.
a couple questions asking about Insane Inoue's
Yeah, yeah. Let's
sentencing.
talk about that, since people are asking me what was it
He
any.
wasn't he wasn't sentenced.
He wasn't
What was
sentenced.
announced? What was announced? I believe that it's going to court in October 4th, like early in October. It was
Okay,
announced the prosecutor is looking to sentence him to 2 years.
2 years, right? In real
And
time, like
yes,
no suspended, like okay, sentence. Okay, yeah. I hear that because
he
this
was
is his third offense, right? In terms of getting into trouble with the police. So
right. I think it's his second drug offense.
second drug offense.
And
First is
I think he also had an assault case, I believe, a
right.
while back. But so the defense was looking for 2 years, and Ensign admitted having it, and they're saying that it was for like pain relief from his career. So they're kind of looking for a lighter sentence. So I believe his wife was kind of cleared of all wrongdoing. It's just him that's being prosecuted.
Oh,
So
so
that's
wife.
all that we know.
Oh,
What?
so wife got off. She's not getting prosecuted.
I believe that's the situation. I believe that he took 100% of the responsibility for
Yeah,
this. Mhm.
yeah, and actually, for prosecutors' point of view, it would be much easier to go after Anson. They're into 99.9% successful rate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they
Well,
won't do it. Yeah.
he's going to be found guilty, so they're going to keep their high percentage. It's just what sentence is the judge going to be giving? So, hope he's a fight fan. But yeah, we don't know the
I
rules
think
yet.
he would have to spend some time, behind the bars.
Yeah.
But
Which I mean is kind of, I mean he was facing potentially harsher. He is a foreigner living here as a non-Japanese. I mean, he's ethnically Japanese, but
right.
he's to the Japanese people. He's not Japanese. So I mean, he could have been deported. There could have been all sorts of things that happened. So in the grand scheme of things, this isn't that bad for him.
I read it in somewhere that I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but those ex-Navy SEAL guy, whatever that is, who helped Carlos Ghosn escape,
Oh yeah, the guy
they,
that had to come serve time. Yeah,
they served time in Japan, right?
yeah. They got the guy was a moron. First off, they were like talking about what they did,
Oh,
and
really?
so
Okay.
Japan extradited them. They got extradited from the U.S. to Japan. He served jail time in Japan.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, but
It wasn't that long. It was a couple of years, like 1 or 2 years or something. But
exactly. So that's the point I was going to get into, because probably almost the same length of time like the ensign is going to get, right? And I'm also hearing that this guy is telling other people that the jail in Japan is very good. Food was awesome. The place was clean. It's nothing like American jail. So being there for a couple of years was nothing for this guy.
well, it seems like I think Ensign's tough. I mean, it seems like I think he would just to his advantage, probably like work out and better himself. He seems like a good guy. Didn't you go to high school with him?
No, I didn't go
The
to high
same high
school.
school?
No,
Were you at the same high school?
I was in a high school in Hawaii at the same time when he was in high school, and my swim coach was he was a manager for some bike shop, and Anson was working there as a like part time. So
Oh, okay, that's what it
yeah,
was.
I never met him, but I knew of him. So
I've met him a couple times. He's a very nice guy. I enjoyed talking to him, and I hope he gets. I mean, 2 years seems kind of long. I'm hoping he gets kind of out quickly because I mean, it's clear to me that it was just like personal use stuff. It was stupid to mail it. I mean, that was a stupid mistake, but
yeah, I mean exactly, and he's Yancha. I think he's just a little bad boy, like and like I think he's into loyalty and stuff like that too. That's why, in a way, he had a good relation with the Yakuza in Japan because they have that kind of value as well. So yeah, I think it was he had some wrong friends, and it was stupid for him to send it. Obviously, you know, but I guess it's a third time, so I guess he's got to swallow. You know.
Yeah, because I think what really screwed him was I think the last drug case where he got off with just like a slap on the wrist. He
Mm.
kind of promised to never do it again.
Right, right.
I think that's the kind of the thing that probably screwed him.
Yeah, basically,
But
right. So,
and
and,
let's see, one
and it,
person's also asking what breaking down is. I mean, you can look it up, but simply it's Mikuru Asakura's fight show on YouTube. They sell on pay-per-view. They kind of build up. It's like a reality show, and the fights are 1 minute long, amateur fights, and it's kind of just like reality fights, just like people that want to be famous.
right, but remember
Is that
the
how you describe it?
Ensign was like coaching and getting involved with the breaking down, right before he got arrested.
He was also telling them to not do stupid stuff and to not do drugs.
Oh, I know. That's just, yeah, that's too bad. So I'm pretty sure the breaking down won't be like helping him much, right? So
Yeah. Well, they have their own problems. I mean, a lot of their guys get arrested for like assaulting people and stuff, apparently. So,
yeah, that's kind of expected though. Huh?
yeah.
Let's go.
So
Ichi's putting down says, "What is the end up system similar to one?" I don't think one does random drug tests, does it? I don't remember anybody getting randomly drug tested. They only have a drug test. I mean, the urine test on the fight week.
maybe he's talking about. I think there were allegations in the past that their weigh-ins were kind of very behind closed doors, the
Oh, yeah.
hydration tests and everything,
Hmm.
and nobody like knew what was going on. But I think they've become more transparent with that.
I think so too,
Now that
because when I was there, I was able to watch, my clients' opponents' weigh-ins, and
yeah,
those tests seems like it was done on the right way.
I think I remember there was some criticism, but I think in response to that, they've become much more open with it.
I think there was a criticism about that when the man Yamaguchi fought Angela Lee.
That's possibly, yeah. Because
I
now
think,
you see videos like Ham Sohi essentially watched Itsuki weigh in and do her hydration tests. So
right, yeah.
it seems like
So
fighters can go watch it too if they want.
right, so unless
But
the actual person who's doing the test is cheating on something, it's really hard to cheat.
did you, back to Ren, did it almost feel anticlimactic to you that he tested negative? I was like, all of this hoopla, all this people like making a giant deal about it, and it turns out nothing happened.
Well, but the bottom line is he did the press conference and he told to the public that he bought it from Akazawa, but he didn't take it. So that really still created a suspicion, right? So
To me, it sounds too specific to be a lie. Like if you were lying about doing it, you would just say that you never bought it or something. But
right,
outside of that, I mean, we can talk about this. I think our next podcast will be right before the next Rising show.
yeah,
So on that, we can kind of talk. I'm looking forward to the Inoue fight that's coming up. There's also your client,
yeah,
and there's also
exactly.
a
And
pretty big pancreas show going on at the same time. So that's
Naoki has
exciting.
been geared. I mean, like zeroing on this fight. I've never seen him like very sensitive in a sense that, like, for example, we have a Lala, that offers that they want to send a TV crew or some crew to shoot him training, all kinds of stuff. But he's been saying no. I don't want to show anybody the way I
No
train.
restrictions.
Yeah, I mean he was never like that, but he's being pretty nervous. Seems like about it. So I think this is the first title fight in his life. So he's really gearing towards
No,
this. And the fact that he lost to Archuleta, he thinks this is a fight that he can, get that loss back.
no, this fight's so big because Kim is such a high level opponent. And aside from that, he's done so well in Rising that he's popular in Rising. People know who he is. They
Right.
know he's a very good fighter. So it's not like that typical thing where they bring over a strong foreigner that nobody knows. They're bringing over a strong foreigner that everybody knows. They know
Right.
how tough he is. So if he beats this guy with Kai gone, he's the top of the division all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, and you
Huge
can
fight for
expect
him.
this fight to go real hard, very active
Oh,
all 15 minutes too, right? I mean, it could finish fast, but you pretty
but
much expect almost a guaranteed good fight,
plus, I mean, I don't. It feels weird to say that it's underrated, but Naoki's got such kind of like a good ground game.
Hmm.
People always focus on how good of a striker he is, but he's got that sneaky good ground game. So I feel like a finish could come out of anywhere. And if there is no finish, like you said, the way that Kim comes forward, nonstop aggression,
Yeah,
and the way that Naoki strikes, it's going to be a barn burner.
yeah, and they both can fight standing ground. It'll be a total MMA, 15
Yeah,
minutes, like a marathon, but sprint style marathon kind of fight.
great.
I'm just a fan. I'm very looking forward to this fight.
As a fan as well, I'm also looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Did he go?
All right,
Did I
so
see he went up and trained with Souza or something?
that's just for the Rising
For
Confession.
media. Yes, I figured.
It's funny, they even ask Naoki to stay there and sleep at Souza's house, associate with his family and stuff like that, and he said no.
Yeah. That
So
sounds weird. That
yeah.
sounds weird. As nice as Satoshi is, that sounds weird.
Right. It's not like they're friends or if they knew each other or anything like that, and they're not from the same town, so
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. All right, so let's do this again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we can preview the Rising show.
Yeah,
and
let's do that.
If there's any more Ren news, we can talk about that as well.
Okay. All right, so we'll do it again, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks.